Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening from wherever you're tuning in. Thank you for joining us again in this podcast, Present Potential. I'm your host, Hassan, and I'm so grateful for you being here, for everyone that has engaged with us, and for continuing to come back to listen and to engage and to hear the stories of the guests that continue to inspire us and motivate us as we go along. Before we get into today's discussion with another fabulous guest who's going to share her story with us, I wanted to remind everyone who's tuning in that on the 30th of October, I'm going to be running a masterclass titled The Art of Communicating with Confidence. It's going to be a 60-minute virtual masterclass where we're going to be covering the essence of storytelling, also how we communicate with ourselves, with others, and in the office in order to be able to effectively and clearly speak what's on our mind. So if you have nothing better to do on the 30th, I'd love for you to join. And the links and details are on my profile on LinkedIn. And you could also reach out to me. So this is a live broadcast. So it's going to be recorded as well. So if we make any mistakes, that's the beauty of going live. So, with that said, I'm very pleased and honored to welcome Celeste to the podcast. Celeste is a real estate expert. She comes with decades of experience in the UK property market. We've connected over LinkedIn, and her story really inspired me when she was telling me about what she's done in terms of building her career and also specializing in the real estate sector. And I thought that it would be a great opportunity for us to learn from her story and also to draw any motivation and inspiration as we always do on Present Potential. So I'm going to stop talking now because I'm probably not introducing Celeste in my usual fashion in the best way, but I would like to welcome her. Welcome, Celeste, to Present Potential.
Thank you very much, Hassan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Well, I'm going to use the most of this time to really understand a little bit more about your story. And what we usually do is we start from the beginning. So maybe if you can just tell us what it was that you wanted to get into when you were a child. What were you aspired to be when you were in school or in even before school or maybe even as a child that your first memory was? What was that thing that really drew you into in terms of what to do with your life?
Do you know what? I think it's really difficult when you're younger to actually know what you're going to do with your career. I'm sure there's some people out there that say, I'm going to be a doctor, and they go out and they become a doctor. But for me, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And even sort of my son now, for example, my son's 16, he's just come out of school, he's gone into college. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. We all have certain parts that we're good at, for example, which can be used in various sectors of your career and whatnot. But for me, I actually fell into what I'm doing now. I suppose, going back to your question, when I was younger, I always wanted to be a pilot. Am I a pilot now? No, I'm not a pilot, but it's like something that always used to interest me. I enjoyed traveling, and I thought, wow, yeah, I'd love to be a pilot. But coming out of school and going into college, I ended up doing at college travel and tourism because it just interested me. But when I started my career, I started off actually in banking. And I was working for Nationwide Bank at the time, and started off as a cashier. Then I progressed up quite quickly and started advising people on accounts. And I was just sort of plodding along and doing my banking thing. And I was looking for a job at the time, and this recruitment agent was working with me to try and help me find something. And I was due to start at HSBC on a Monday, and I got a call from her on a Friday afternoon saying to me, Celeste, I've got you this interview with corporate estate agents in London Road. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry, I've actually taken something now, I'm due to start on Monday. And she said, I've really sold you into this company, and if you don't go, she said, I'm going to lose lose the client, basically. So I felt sorry for her, and she'd worked really hard helping me try and find a job. So I thought, oh, I'll just go along to it, it was just as a favor, really. I didn't have no interest in really going. I was just doing her a favor. Anyway, I went into this interview, and they just sold it to me, and I liked the idea of it. I liked the flexibility and the challenges and houses. I came out of that interview at 6 o'clock, and she phoned me up, and I was walking up the high street, and she said to me, so what did you think, Celeste? And I said, well, actually, I quite like the sound of that. And she said, well, the job's yours if you want it. You start Monday. And I've never looked back since. Do you know what? I would love to connect with that lady again, the recruitment years ago, because she really sort of put me on this path within the state agency that I never planned to do. But I just fell into it and just loved it, and still do. So I think that sometimes if you don't know what you want to do in life, things just tend to sort of work out, and quite often you hear that people just fall into what they're doing as their careers, don't you?
Wow, what a story. So wanting to be a pilot, and then went into banking, and then you were going to start a new job on a Monday, but then on a Friday, this friend associate told you that there's an opportunity to go into real estate, and you said, okay, might as well. And that
Give
really
it.
transformed everything. Wow.
He transformed my whole life.
So maybe starting from like what you wanted to do, and then eventually going into real estate. And from everyone that I've spoken to, I've never heard anyone say that they wanted to become a pilot. What really connected you with that? Like, I'm really intrigued to understand what was the
Well,
drive there.
when I was younger, my stepfather at the time, he was actually a pilot. So we used to go quite a lot to the airports and what have you when he was doing his flying. So I suppose it was just around me, but also I'm quite well travelled. I'm lucky enough to say I'm quite well travelled, and I really enjoy travelling. And I love, some people just the fear of planes. For me, when I was younger, that was one of the most exciting bits, going to the airport and getting on the plane. I used to think that was part of the highlight of the holiday. So yeah, it's just something that just excited me. So I thought, oh, I'd want to be a pilot. Even today, if I had the opportunity to be able to go and be a pilot, I'd probably take it up and do it.
I feel the passion there about aviation and becoming a pilot and
Yeah,
flying.
dream.
And and when you were then going into career and thinking about that, how much of what you wanted to be influenced it or not? What was that kind of maybe discussion within your head or with the people around you to say that I want to explore this route of becoming a pilot, but then maybe something else was more interesting and you found that more
I think
interesting?
I always thought that it was quite hard to get into. So it was always sort of a dream as a child. I suppose when you're a child, you have a dream of things that you might want, the careers that you might want to do, whether it's policeman, a fireman, a pilot, whatever it may be. When you're little, I suppose you don't really understand the world as such or how things work. But I always sort of felt that I never really saw how to get into it. You go through the motions of school, you go through the motions of getting your grades in X, Y, and Z, and then going into college, and these are the courses available to you. So as I say, I just ended up sort of falling into sort of picking the things that I liked when I came out of school. Okay, I like travel and tourism. I'll study that, and then you just fall into these career paths. So it was always a sort of a dream, but nothing that I sort of pursued. But I think that the career that I've fallen into definitely suits me. I love what I do, and it's definitely the right career path for me anyway.
Oh, wow. So, and then once you decided to take on that interview, that, I mean, you were starting a new job anyway, but you were intrigued by real estate. How much of that was from, I don't know, from a younger age, or from seeing people that were in the real estate agent, or even from that person that you were interacting with who was helping you at the time find a property? How much of that intrigue really propelled you to go to this interview?
I think that from experience with like property seems to interest everybody.
Mm.
I speak to clients and people all the time that are addicted to sort of Rightmove, and they sit and they will trawl on Rightmove just looking at properties because they like that. You watch the property shows, don't you? Multi-million-pound properties, country to coast, places in the sun, etc. We seem to sort of have that interest, don't we? So I think there's always that there, even within myself. There was always an interest in property. When you walk down the high streets and you see the estate agents and the windows, you're naturally drawn to go and have a look. So there was always, it wasn't something that I would say that I was sort of really, something that I said to myself when I was younger, I want to be an estate agent, I want to go into property. But it was always there, and it was always something sort of that was interesting and fascinated you.
Oh, wow. And it's so true what you were saying about like people scrolling to see properties. I definitely am one of those people that just looks at what's there, most of the time without even the interest of seeing them or buying them, but just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And when you were sharing that, I remembered the story which I'll share, and it's a bit of a personal one. But when my wife delivered our second child, she was staying at home, taking care of the baby, so she was really bored. And there was a house next to us that was up for sale. And we used to drive past it every day, and see the sign. So eventually she decided to call them. So she called them, and eventually she called me to ask whether we want to go for a viewing. And I told her, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Yeah, it's a couple of million, but the guy seems interesting and we should go check it out." And I told her, "But we're not even looking for a house and it's completely above our budget." I was like, "I think it's time for you to maybe get some company, or we could switch places." But I completely know what you mean.
The nice thing is now, obviously, a lot of agents and myself do video tours, so you can literally have virtual viewings. So I'm sure there's plenty of people that sit there and will watch the viewings and just look at these amazing different houses. It's quite inspirational, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh, wow. So how long have you been doing real estate and properties for?
So since 1999, so 20, was it
Wow.
26 years, something like that, 25, 26 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So it's basically, I've lived and breathed it since
Yeah.
finishing education. It's what I do.
Yeah. And since then, like, what have been like maybe the major changes that you've seen? Um, Really, I'm thinking about different scenarios, whether it's the environment itself or the economy that's being impacted by the different situations that took place from the 90s until now. There's been a couple of economic crises, but what patterns have you seen that really are interesting and you're still noticing them taking place now?
Do you know what? I think that people outside of property look at it as quite a glamorous job, and it's not. It's a hard industry. It's not for the faint-hearted. It comes with a lot of stress. You're dealing with day to day, when you're dealing with people when they're selling a property or buying a property. They're either buying the biggest asset of their lives, or they might only do it 1, 2, or 3 times. I mean, I'm dealing with it day in, day out, so it comes naturally to me. But it's a very, very stressful time for people when they're actually in that process of buying or selling a property. So my job's really important in helping my clients through and trying to ease that stress and pressure. So a lot of the time, I'm trying to take that away from people to help. But with regards, so that's part of it. But also with regards to the economy and the climates, etc., it's so up and down. It can be so turbulent. Sometimes you hit a good run and things are great, and then you have things like Brexit, you have elections, you have interest rate rises, you have budgets. They all affect COVID. They all affect the market. So you have to sort of ride the rough with the smooth, if you like. And now I'm one of these people that I really enjoy a challenge, and I think I thrive on stress, to be honest, because you tend to take a lot of it on. So it's like I say, it's not an easy industry, but it can come with some really good times and rewards as well. You meet some fantastic people along the way. I've made so many friends from clients that have just, once you've sort of gone through that whole process, they become friends of yours, and it just goes on. So yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean about like the process and how stressful it can be, especially like my wife and I went through that. And it's so true that we build a relationship with the people who help us, because it's uh, it's what you said. It's either the biggest investments in anyone's life, or if they do it once, two or three times, then it's one of those major milestones that anyone would go through. And I'm really curious to know how you felt when you sold your first property, when you went into this industry. And then I might be challenging the like the memory of that, but I'd really be interested to hear if you remember anything
You know
of the
what?
first deal.
You still get it now. When so early on in my career, I've been doing it a long time now, and you would think that it would eventually phase out, or you don't get the same enjoyment out of it. I still enjoy those moments now to when I did when I
Mm,
first started my career, of helping somebody and securing that house for them. You go through this emotional ride with people, if you like, that you're out viewing with them, you're trying to find their dream home. I've had situations, I mean, going back when I first started my career, even to now, where people have actually even made me cry with
mm,
them. I remember being in a garden one day with some clients, and they got quite emotional with regards to the offer. And I had them with me there and then. I said, let me phone my client. I'll see if I can get the offer accepted for you. You get the offer accepted. They're crying big with joy. And then they emotionally, it gets to you as well. You end up feeling those
yeah.
emotions with them. So in answer to your question, going back to sort of when I first started my career, it's still the same now. That emotion and connection is still as great now as it was when I first started my career.
Oh wow. It sounds like it's also a personal relationship that you build with these clients and people, because you're so close to them and serving them in that way, like helping them achieve one of their dream goals. Because for myself and my wife, we have a dream house or dream property that we'd want to have, or even try to have and aspire to get to. So you become part of that story, and it's part of their legacy that they then hand down if they're going to keep the house to give to their children or eventually move to somewhere else. What are some things that keep you in that same state of energy or connection with your clients, especially after doing it for so long? Like, you still have that love and passion for what you're doing.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to love what you do, and you get that satisfaction, if you like. So you've always, within any career, I suppose, you've always got to have job satisfaction, haven't you? You've got to enjoy what you're doing. And
Yeah.
no day is the same in a state agency. Every day can be different. It's so varied. Yes, you're out doing viewings. Yes, you're out doing valuations. You've got administration to do. You've got social media to do. You've got all these different sort of elements
Mm,
of the job. So no day is the same. Something can be thrown at you out of the blue with regards to something during conveyancing that might take up in your afternoon that you hadn't planned for. So you wake up every day and you go into the office, or you go into your day, and you never know how that's going to be. So it keeps you on your toes, if you like. So because
mm,
it's so varied, because you're helping people and you're connecting with people, and it can be a joyous moment a lot of the time. It just makes the job enjoyable, and it gives you that satisfaction when you're helping people and you're being set challenges to make something work for somebody and get them where they need to be.
yeah. Yeah, there's so much there, like the love and the passion to do the things that we want to do every day. We wake up and feel that any challenge that comes our way can be overcome by our commitment and dedication. And how was it during COVID time? I mean, I'm thinking about like almost every single industry that was impacted during the lockdowns, and how different companies and people were really suffering, and especially like the real estate property, because part of what you do is you take people to see houses, and when people are restricted from going different places, then you must have come up with different ways or um, solutions that you could still continue to serve your clients and do the things that you love. I'd really love to hear, like, how did you overcome that challenge?
COVID was massively challenging. I mean, I was quite fortunate in that I'd already come off of the high street and I'd gone hybrid. So I was one of the first agencies within my area to actually go hybrid, if you like. So I was already geared up. So when COVID hit, literally offices had to be shut, but I was already working remotely. So my business, I didn't have to change my business in that respect. But literally overnight, everybody pulled out of properties they were buying, what's called your pipeline of property sales that you've got going through. I mean, bearing in mind, we only get paid on results upon completion. Literally, your whole business just went overnight. So it was then having to sort of find ways to adapt to that and try and keep the cogs turning and keep things moving. So we started doing virtual. I was already doing virtual viewings, but virtual viewings then became the norm. Online meetings like we're doing now became the norm. And then suddenly also people realized that actually you don't need to be sat on a high street. You can work in a estate agency remotely. So I launched the self-employed model during COVID. I managed to recruit 16 agents to come in and work as self-employed remote realtors, if you like. So when we came out of COVID, I had 16 agents all working under my umbrella and going into that self-employed model.
Oh, wow. So it was actually before COVID where you were in this hybrid environment and also kind of already working remotely, which was extremely amplified during the COVID situation. And it sounds like, I don't know, it's a completely stressful time to see that pipeline completely come down. And it sounds like you were resilient in building the business and bringing 16 different agents as well under your umbrella. How was it once you came out of COVID? How was your engagement with the agents, and how did you feel?
So I have a lot of American influence in me because when I was younger, we lived in America, and obviously I always saw that the UK market should be working like the Americans do it, that you should have your brokerages and you should have the self-employed real estate agents. So I always had that vision for the UK. Back in 2016, prior to COVID, I was trying to launch this self-employed brokerage type model. It just didn't take off because nobody could get their heads around not being paid a regular salary and coming off of the high street. So I was trying to launch this model anyway. I had all the contracts. I'd spent tens of thousands of pounds setting it all up, etc. in the background. We were all there ready to do this and facilitate it. I just couldn't get it going. So when COVID hit, it actually did me a favor, if you like, for the business model that I was trying to launch from 2016, because I had it all there ready to go. So when COVID hit and we all went into lockdown, I was just launching out this brokerage self-employed model because I knew that this was the way things should be going. There was obviously quite a number of, and I would say, hand on heart, I was one of the first to launch out, certainly within the areas where I was, and nobody else was doing it. And people started to listen because you suddenly got estate agents at home going, actually, I don't want to go back to this 9-to-5 grind anymore. I can do this from working from home. So it was great in that respect. And it enabled me to attract the people in, obviously, that I did. So when we came out of COVID, I then had my business model going. Was where I wanted to be. But what I quickly found was it was only me trying to manage this massive change, if you like, and managing 16 people under me with nobody else, no financial help, no help with training. I was suddenly being torn left, right, and center to wearing all these hats and trying to get this business model going. And what I realized was actually I needed the foundations more so in what I had. I couldn't just do this on my own. So I whittled it back down, if you like, and I got it down to about 5 manageable agents that were all doing very well. And for one reason or another, that all sort of changed. One of them went off and opened up on her own. Another one went overseas, etc. And another one had a baby and got married. So I just decided, right, I need to just draw this back again to me for a minute and just reset and focus, which is what I did. Then what happened was there was other bigger companies coming into the industry like EXP, Keller Williams. The agency had just started going in the UK at the time, and they all started launching out as well. So as I whittled it back down to myself, I thought, you know what? rather than try and compete with the big boys, if you like, that have got this infrastructure already in place, that have already got the American models that they're bringing in, the financial backing to support it, rather than going up against them, why don't I just go and join forces? So I ended up joining in actually to one of the brokerages and looking at then taking my business in with them and doing what I was trying to do independently, but within a brokerage. So that's where I am now. I've joined in with a brokerage, and there's some really good ones out there. And, you know, that's where I think the industry is going to end up. It's definitely changing. And I don't see the traditional models lasting very long. This is really, really rocketing the brokerage style estate agency.
Wow, that's very inspiring as well to hear how you went from you have this business model that you know that it can work, but then the environment wasn't really suitable until, well, fortunately or unfortunately, COVID comes and it really fuels that kind of prospect of being able to serve through hybrid, and you don't need to be in the high street anymore. And I remember as soon as COVID hit as well, I was still employed in the corporate world, and we never used to have video calls up until COVID. And that's when we started being okay for us to open the cameras. And now it comes to most of us like second nature that it's okay to be on camera and speak and have video calls. But I remember like it was one of the first times that I felt, okay, maybe this is going to be a temporary thing. Let's open the camera. But then you took it to the next step. So like you scaled it, but realized that maybe I need to focus on bringing it smaller and closer to me to understand what is happening and build it again. And from what I'm hearing and seeing is you're quite an entrepreneur. Obviously, you've been doing this for 2 decades or more, but it sounds like you're also looking at different ways that you could continue to grow, develop, gain exposure and attraction with different people, and linking with this company as well, doing what you love. It's really inspiring. Like there's so many takeaways that I can hear from what you've shared, and it sounds like it's a short journey what we've talked about, but like COVID is almost 5 years ago, so that's been a really transformative period. I'm wondering, like, what's next for you? Like, where do you see your business and what you're going to be doing and your passion?
Who knows? I'm very much, I think change is really healthy. I think that you need to move with the times. So you can become very stagnant and just staying still. But I also think that it's really important to grow, make changes, make those leaps, change the way that you do things, take yourself out of your comfort zone, give yourself new challenges, all that sort of thing. So I'm one of these people where I don't sit still. So I need to be on the move. I need to have things that excite me. I need to be given new challenges. So at the moment, I'm obviously running my business within a brokerage. I'm looking to grow a team within the South Coast. So I'm looking to get around 30 people sort of working within the organization that I can mentor and help grow their businesses, pass down some of my experiences to them. So at the moment, that's what I'm looking to build in growing that sort of success, not just within myself, but being able to pass that down to other people that want to come into this industry.
I love that. Passing it forward. It's like planting a tree and having other people sit under it to enjoy.
Yeah. So I'm in my early 40s now. I'm sort of saying to myself, right, I've got 10, my son's just gone to college. The world's my oyster. One of the reasons why I ended up starting out in a estate agency and starting my own business initially was because of my son. I wanted the flexibility and the time and to be able to be a mum, but also be able to run a business. And that's one of the reasons why I started my own business. He's now becoming independent himself. So I'm like looking at the world going, wow, I've got all this time now. I've got responsibilities, but not so much as a young child anymore. So I can really go out and give it my all. So yeah, so that's what I plan to do. The next 10 years, I've got no restrictions as such to really be able to go out and give a lot of my time back.
That's amazing. I can't imagine how building a business and raising a son at the same time and still managing to do everything that you're doing and having that, I feel the drive and the passion for doing even more and more as you keep going. It's just so infectious, that motivation and inspiration.
Yeah, as I say, I enjoy it. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm not one to sit still. I think I drive my other half mad in that I'm very spontaneous. I'll come up with an idea, and the next minute's like, right, come on, let's do it. We're going to do this. You know? So one day to the next is never the same with me.
Amazing. I'd love to hear more. And usually what we do is we kind of end the show or like the episode with um, a sentence that we ask everyone that comes on. And the question is there a quote, mantra, or piece of wisdom that you live by, and how has this influenced your life?
So something that I always say, no matter what the problem is, everything is resolvable. So
Mm.
no matter what you're faced with, there's always a solution and it can always be resolved somehow.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. When we start seeing challenges or problems as opportunities and ways that we could learn and overcome them because they have solutions, that's so true. And regardless of what happens, we keep on learning. And
Yeah.
that's definitely one thing that I feel I can definitely learn, is that your ambition and motivation to continue learning and to continue growing and to experiment and to find different ways to overcome anything that comes your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Life's full of challenges, but
Oops,
yeah,
I don't
sorry,
know what I did with the
we got kicked off then. Life's full of challenges, but it's fronting those challenges and just giving anything a go. And when you're confronted with things that sometimes might feel that they're a little bit out of your depth or you don't quite know how to deal with it, just front it. It's all resolvable one way or the other. We will always find a solution to make something work.
Wow. Thank you so much, Celeste, for joining us, for sharing your wisdom and your journey, and enlightening us with how you see the world and where you are seeing in the future as well. And who knows, maybe you'll also become a pilot someday, with your with your drive and aspiration and passion for the industry.
I'll be in retirement age.
And
No.
anything else that maybe I didn't ask or delve into that you'd like to share before we end today?
No, I've really enjoyed today's show. Thank you for having me on, and hopefully my story will impact with somebody out there that they might take something from it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Celeste. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, for listening, for tuning in. And as always, remember that today is the most important day of your life. Take care and see you next time.